Hi, friends. I thought I would do volume two of my hot dogs picks and recommendations for this year's festival. So the festival continues to be available online through the Hot Dogs platform, hotdogs.ca, until May 9th, 2021. So in no particular order, I thought I would maybe outline more feature documentaries and some shorts that I think some of you would find quite interesting at this year's Hot Dogs Festival. So we're going to start with Nothing But the Sun, and in Spanish is title is Apenas el Sol. It is directed by Arami Ullón. And the film opened the IDFA Documentary Film Festival, a really well-known documentary film festival out in Amsterdam. And in the film, we're introduced to Mateo Sabone Chiqueno, who's been recording stories, songs, and testimonies of his Arroyo people, who are indigenous people of Paraguay, since the 1970s. So he's been using cassettes to record these stories and songs in order to preserve their culture. It's a really, really intimate film. It will create different emotions as you watch it, because it is sort of telling us about the importance of recording and saving these indigenous stories and preserving that knowledge for the next generations. So we're gonna, the name of the film is Nothing But the Sun, or in Spanish, Apenas el Sol. Highly, highly recommend that. Next on my list, I have Generation Utoya. The directors are Aslog Holm and Sigve Andersen. And the film focuses on four women survivors of the 2011 mass shooting in Norway, where a right-wing extremists infiltrated the camp on Utoya Island and opened fire, and 69 people died from that incident. But the film focuses on the four women who've become more politically active. They've dedicated their lives to sort of building a better community and a better country. And I think it's sort of an inspirational film that I think it's also very timely and definitely very moving as well. Very inspirational, I will say. I also have Drop Stones by, it was directed by Caitlin Durlach. It's a Canadian film. It's set on Fogo Island off the coast of Newfoundland. Beautiful place. It's also another intimate family portrait of Sonia and her two young sons. And she's basically returned to Fogo Island, where she grew up, in order to raise her sons in the same manner in which she was raised, with access to nature and just different life skills. I really, really liked watching this film because I like sort of looking at the everyday lives of people in places that I am not too familiar with. I really liked her kids, but I also just liked the fact that the filmmaker, Caitlin Durlach, wanted to focus on women on the island versus the men who we've heard a lot about through different stories. So that is Drop Stones. Next, I have Misha and the Wolves, directed by Sam Hopkinson. It's a film that I screened at another film festival, and it's actually quite provocative in the sense that it's sort of like a thriller, but it's sort of a true crime kind of tale, in the sense that it's sort of a too good to be true story of a young girl that survived the Holocaust by going through I guess the wilderness and living with wolves and surviving out in nature on her own. It became a book, really a best-selling book. And there's so many complexities in that story, in the way that we discover there's more to it than what the woman told the publishers and her community, and sort of this deceitful story. I don't want to give too much away. You could definitely find more information on the story if you look it up on Google. But I think it's a really interesting film to watch. I found that it gave me some complex emotions as I watched it, but it's really well done. That is Misha and the Wolves. Next, I have on my picks list Philly DA, and it's directed by Ted Passon and Yoni Brook. It's actually 470 minutes long because it's a docu-series. It's part of the deep dive program at Hot Docs this year. I found the series completely fascinating. It's an inside look at the office of Philadelphia District Attorney Larry Krasner, and while he and his team, they're sort of newly been elected as DA and sort of going into clean house, and they're trying to end mass incarceration and sort of transform the criminal justice system from the inside. And it's, like I said, it's super interesting. I am definitely somebody who doesn't mind sitting through some of these docuseries, so I definitely recommend Philly DA. I also have Between Fire and Water, Entre Fuego y Agua, and it's directed by Viviana Gomez Echeverri. And it actually follows the story of a young man who is Afro-Indigenous, and he's sort of embarking on a spiritual journey to find his identity and his mother. He was adopted by an Indigenous couple of the Kiyasinga tribe in the southwestern part of Colombia. And it really sort of gives you a personal view of his journey. He's been the only Black person in his community, and he kind of wants to reconnect to his roots. So I definitely recommend you catch this film, Between Fire and Water, Entre Fuego y Agua. Also, a documentary that I watched from another film festival is Users, and the director is Natalia Almada. It was a winner at Sundance, and it's a really beautiful visual essay about the place of technology in our lives. And it is sort of asking us to think about how machines that we use every day may end up changing our planet, but they also will change us in some way as well. And it's a very meditative look at this question. For some people, it may seem a bit of a slow-paced film, but it's just really beautiful to look at. So kudos to cinematographer Dave Surf for some really great visuals in the film. Also, I want to note that the film is scored by the Kronos Quartet, and it complements the film quite beautifully. So that is Users. I also have La Madrina, The Savage Life of Lorraine Padilla, a documentary that's also screened elsewhere. I have yet to see the film, by the way, but the director is Raquel Cepeda, and it's the film follows a matriarch and healer, Lorraine Padilla, once the former First Lady of the Savage Skulls gang, and she's now an activist in her community of the Bronx. And it's sort of a film that I think is following her life and activism over the last few decades. And I think they do have a combination of archival footage and personal interviews in terms of access to Lorraine Padilla, and in a way that she also gets to tell her story. I'm kind of looking forward to seeing this film, actually. So that is La Madrina, The Savage Life of Lorraine Padilla. I also want to highlight another film that is on my radar for a feature documentary. It's Only the Ocean Between Us, in Spanish, Solo el Mar Nos Separa. And the directors are actually 4 people. Khaldia Amer Ali, Mara Mohamed Al-Khateb, Cardi Bautista Pizarro, and Christy Copper Silvano. I hope I got those names right. And the film is actually kind of about 4 young women that have come together through video letters to each other that sort of allows them to connect across the sea. I think 2 of the women are Peruvian of Indigenous background, and 2 are from Syria who are now living in Jordan. So I'm also looking forward to watching this film. It's an intimate sort of look at the relationship these 4 women have created through their video letters. So that is Only the Ocean Between Us, or in Espanol, Solo el Mar Nos Separa. So I didn't want to just highlight feature documentaries. I also want to shout out some short films that I think are interesting, whether it's because of their description or subject matter, or I also have seen the film, so I thought you would be interested in them as well. So I'll start off with Last Night at the Strip Club, and is directed by Nicole Boswin, I believe. Sorry if I mispronounced your last name, Nicole. It's basically a look at a Toronto stripper who's now entered a new frontier due to the pandemic, and it's sort of getting creative and doing contactless work. So she's forced to be creative, and the idea is that she's doing this work in order to nourish her dream of becoming a full-time writer. So I'm very curious about this film. I've heard about this and it comes recommended my way. That is Last Night at the Strip Club. On my list for short films, I have Into the Light by Shauna McDonald. She also has a feature film at Hot Docs, which I mentioned in my last picks. But Into the Light is actually set in Yellowknife, and the director sort of follows or captures a season in a mom's life with her child while they navigate the complexities of gender identity together. It's a really lovely film, visually, but also thematically. And I found that it actually kept their privacy intact, and I do appreciate that of the filmmaker. Also want to give a shout out to their cinematography or director of photography, Simon Schreider, for this short film. So that is Into the Light. I also want to highlight one of the free short films, Body Politics, directed by Aisha Fairclough. And it also follows Dr. Jill Andrew, who's a local politician. Many of you living in Toronto, Canada will be familiar with her. Hopefully you are. And she takes her fight for body positivity and justice, human rights, representation, and a lot of other things to Parliament. That is Body Politics, something that you should watch because it's free. It's available free along with other great short documentaries. Lastly, but definitely not least, I want to highlight Audible by director Mike Ogans. And it's a short film that follows football player Amory McKinstry Hall and his football teammates that actually they attend the Maryland School for the Deaf, and this is their last year in high school. They're also trying to defend their winning streak this year as well, and they're also trying to deal with the complexities of leaving high school and entering the hearing world and what that will mean for them. It's a really beautifully shot film. From the cinematography standpoint, but the young people in the film are really what make the film. Amory being one of the key people, but it's an excellent short documentary film that I hope that many of you will catch at this year's festival. So that wraps up my volume 2 of my picks and recommendations at Hot Docs International Documentary Film Festival. Again, the festival runs until May 9th, and you can find all of the information on accessing these films at hotdocs.ca. Thanks for staying with the video, and I'll make sure to write the link in the description to the video. Take care, friends.